Yes, so I thought I'd go just walk you through some of the resources, and then I am going to put a plug in for Beth Rice and her work, which is really exciting. And then I want to share some opportunities that are coming up with Denver University interns. So I wanted to show you that this is our website, and it's funny, I'm mentoring another new SPDIG director, and she was feeling quite overwhelmed, and I said, oh my goodness, just know that we as states share information. We never want to recreate what another state has done. We invite states to come and present to us. We learn, and and I said we lifted a lot from Michigan with approval. Then we kind of crafted it to Colorado, and I know I talked to RJ in Washington who has done the same. So the first thing I want to show you is we have created, so you can click on these and this will give you the component definition and the practice profile. So like Michigan came up with practice profiles. Theirs are much more in depth. So what we decided is just to go with the simpler version that at the district level, here's the expected use. At the school, here's the expected use. And then give you the exemplar, the high bar that you want to reach in each of these components. And I can put the link in the chat too, because I'm not going to go through them except to just say we made it simpler around Colorado. And then down
Tell us
here,
also what a practice profile is and how you use that.
Yeah. So a practice profile, as we introduce the components and train on them, we have an online academy that has different modules where you can get certificates, credits, but walks you through each of the components. So the practice profile is, and let me just go back to layered continuum. So the practice profile is also a part of our modules and our training. So we can say, here's the definition. This is what you can use when you're planning, action planning, or speaking with, and we have it at the region, the district, and the school level. So here's the high bar of at the district level, what we would want for layered continuum supports, and it goes into detail. Here's the where you want to try to reach for in school expected use and practice. And so they use that as a guide, and we wanted it pretty simple so they could follow it. And below, we have it in PDFs we have them linked together for district and school as a comparison. And then we also have a region and district, because in Colorado, we're piloting three regions actually, that have about 5 to 8 districts in each region. So you can see, let me just show you the regional and districts. So you can also print out the long form of this, and it just gives you what should be happening at the region, and expected use, it's the exemplar, and what is the expected use in the district. So that's been very helpful for us. Hey, that's my dog. Sorry if you can hear it in the background. It's been very helpful for us in walking through our modules, and then it's helpful for them if they need a one-page document with all the components to work with their superintendent or their implementation teams. They have this as a guide. So that's the practice profiles, and we have them all listed here. And then we also have a whole PDF of regional district school. And then the other thing.
So before you go on, I just want to see if anyone has questions or comments or. One of my questions is, do people ever use them for like self-evaluation? So a team might get together and sort of think like, okay, here's what we do pretty well. Here's something, this is a piece that's missing. Let's do some training on that. Or
so Sarah, that is such a great question. So Steve Goodman is one of our national advisors, and he also helped us craft this. Michigan's is much more in depth. So Michigan's has 3 levels. If you look at theirs, and I can, when Beth is presenting, I'll find theirs and put it in the chat so you guys can take a look at theirs too. Ours are not meant for a measurement at all. So we just had some districts that did it on their own, and it's only a guide. So we're only saying, this is the bar, this is where you want to get, because our state uses NERN and SISIP's state capacity, regional capacity, district capacity assessment. And then I'm going to show you all a school fidelity tool that measures that. And then I'm also going to show you an implementation guide where you can measure it.
Okay,
So
great.
that just came up yesterday, and we said, no, this is just, this is just giving you a sense of where you want to be in the
Okay, that's helpful.
stages. Kevin?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for me to understand, if I understood more. These are pretty self-directed districts and schools who commit to MTSS. This is guidance for them, that they go in and they self-educate versus you having some sort of cadre of infrastructure to support their learning, a professional development network that, am I clear about what I'm asking? Like, how do they access it? How are these materials accessed by the regions and schools? They log on,
Yeah.
they look, they walk themselves through implementation of MTSS using these materials as a guide?
Kevin, that's a great question. So what we're doing is we're scaling up. So for our specific grantees, and we have state funded grantees and SPEDIG grantees, we train them on this. So they have specific training on all the modules. They get access to this, and anybody through our state or nationally can have access to the practice profiles. What we're working on is a step-by-step guidance for the field so that, and I'm going to show you some resources. We just need to better link them to say, here's a video that shows you what you should do first. And we're trying to do that. We have coordinators trainings on our online academy that do that, and they list how to train people in these areas. We just need to have that on the front page to say, here's a how-to for districts that aren't part of our grantees. But let me show you the next. So we're growing this and we need to redo this page. But one of the things that we're working on is our region, district, and school implementation guide. The region and the school implementation guides will come out this summer, but we do have the district implementation guide. And Kevin, this is where we just need to have a video or a how to start here, because this really is a district guide. So it talks about the exploration stage, installation, initial implementation, and full implementation. And here's an overall roadmap, and you can join at any time. We just have our grant years. Here's what you do in exploration stage, and it links to the overview, links to the practice profiles, links to the components, and then the initial stage, and it goes all the way to full implementation. And then if you hit any of these, it goes into a deeper dive. I'm just going to go to the top so you can see the so we have time frame. The role is it the state team, the district coordinator, the region, the school. We have the goals, the activities of here's the overview of whatever stage that you're finding yourself in. Here's some evidence that you might want to bring in and make sure that you have. And then this is the progress check, not started, in progress, continuous improvement. And what we try to do is with our capacity assessments, well, I should be honest with you and say that we need to do a better job, because we just got this finished and got this up with our districts to say, here's the guide. So all of our specialists are using this guide with their staff, and they can take and run with it and mark it off. And so then we'll have this for the region and the school, but again, we just have to make sure that we tie it back to these resources. So I have 2 more resources to share really quickly, and I'm going through this very fast. You can always email me. I can meet with you. I can walk you through it. Love your suggestions. Any questions on the implementation guides?
So
Sarah?
because you're moving kind of fast, I was curious, like, I just wanted to sort of, what are some of the content and are they so what are some of the big topics? Like, I guess they're aligned to implementation stages from what I can
Right.
see.
So they're linked to implementation stages, and on our online academy, we have modules, but we also have a coordinators training and we have coordinator competencies. So the coordinators themselves are trained in systematic ways to get to a place that they have an understanding that, and they're in charge of leading their district. And with our support, with our technical support. So this helps the coordinator. She or he can walk through this with their district and their implementation meetings that they have every month, and to show, that they're following these stages, and some are further ahead than others. Some have been in the grant previously. So, they're starting, maybe in the initial implementation stage.
Sure.
So this is it's a roadmap for them.
I love that. It's a roadmap. It's almost like a curriculum in a way, is another way to
Yeah.
think of it, right? You've laid out the whole curriculum and it's like you start here. I mean, you may people, I'm sure, join the teams with different degrees of background and training. So they may start at different places, but it's the comprehensive curriculum of kind of what you need to know, start to finish, to do this well.
Yes. And then I've had to tell our team that we just need to get it up. We can always make revisions. So that's kind of where we are with the region and the school implementation guides are almost ready for prime time. So I kind of have to pull it from them and say, we need to get it up. We can always make changes, but I'd be interested in your feedback, or if you need if you want me to walk you through this, not so fast, that I'm here.
I know.
Okay, the other thing that I wanted to show you is part of our what we've done with our districts is we took them through a database decision making protocol last year, and they identified focus areas, and they're all over the place. They're about 50% academic and 50% social emotional, ranging in different areas. And so that's how we're measuring their growth. I will tell you guys, it was a heavy lift to get them through this database protocol. But I wanted to show you that it's here. If you ever wanted to use it as a guide, and if you ever need a Word version, I can send it to you too. That walks them through how to identify a problem of practice, root cause analysis. We took them through the 5 whys, getting to your goal statement and problem statement. And it won't be a surprise to any of you that when you start this and you say, bring your data, A, they don't know what data they have. B, they bring all the wrong data. Or C, they bring so much data that we say, that's great, let's hone it in. And the biggest thing that we found in Colorado, which is probably with you guys as well, is there's a missing link of data management systems here. So how can we help them with that? But here's a resource that will walk you through and give you activities if you wanted to use it, or if you wanted to, I could give you the Word. I think the Word doc, no, I could send you the Word document if you wanted to, make it close to what your state is doing. And then the last thing that I want to show you here is, this is a school fidelity tool. And I should just step back with the implementation guides. We work with our national advisors, and we also worked with Karen Ward. to make sure that they are aligned with our capacity assessments, our practice profiles. And so we also created a school fidelity tool that we give to the schools every year. This year is our baseline data. We piloted this tool ahead of time and just talked to Jennifer Coffey about we're wanting to validate this, and it takes years to validate it. So now that we're collecting data, we're closer to doing that. So we're having that discussion of validating this tool. But this is here, and it looks at, don't necessarily need to, it looks at how are we drilling down to school level teams. So not the teachers. We know we're making that link between the school level leads in the implementation teams in the schools. But this is a guide that we work, and the school level leads are a part of our district implementation team. So they're at the table. We would love to have student voice. We would love to also have teachers, of which we do in the rural areas. Many people wear many hats. But this is something that they walk through with all the components. And again, this kind of ties back to practice profiles, right? Because the practice profiles are just the exemplar. And this is more of the rating system in place, partially in place, or not yet in place. And any of you giving the capacity assessments, you know that the biggest thing is it's just not yet. You don't say it's not in place. You say not yet. It's going to come.
I love that. Yes, that's important.
So this is a tool that's out there too, and we'll be validating that. But if you need more information, I can let you know. And what we're trying to do, and we'll put this in we're working on our website, so it's not just by alphabetical order, because it'll be by district, school, and region. But everything that we use here, so our high quality professional development checklist, we have a meetings foundation checklist, we have action planning tool that's very simple for them to follow. So now, because they've done their data protocol and come up with a focus area, now they're working on their action planning. So what's next? They're getting results from their capacity assessments, their school fidelity tool, and they can see areas of growth and what are short wins, easy wins, and what are the long-term wins that we're looking at. So I won't go through all of that because I want to make sure to give Beth some time, but it has been exciting. And I think I've known a lot of you for a couple of years or many years that of working with other states and sharing information. And like I said, Michigan was gracious, but we brought Mississippi in talking about MTSS and social emotional learning. We don't want to recreate what's already out there, and it's totally open for you guys to use. You can recreate it the way that you want, and I'm open if you ever want to meet about that. But Sarah, before I close, I have a request, and Beth is going to also help me with this.
I have some feedback too. So are you changing topics or going on? Do you want to
changing
pause?
Topics. I'll pause.
Okay, so hold on. So in the chat, a few people asked if these were publicly available, if they could go in and look, and they also asked for the link. So I put the link in the chat while you were talking. I want you to know that because I heard you say that they are publicly available, that people, you know, that you were sharing and that people could go and look. So I do really appreciate that greatly, but I wanted you to know that and give you a chance to respond. So you're inviting others to go and look and use
and
things,
so
right?
it's most of them we have in PDF and in Word. And like we did, we do not mind if you take the Word doc, the Word doc, and you make it work for your state. The only thing is with the school fidelity tool, we're trying to validate that as it is. So, but I could always have a conversation of anything that any of you need. We would be open to sharing because that's how we grew some of these resources. So
Actually, I would love it if this group could consider working together to validate the tool. So not only you validate it in Colorado, but maybe we could use it in Nebraska and somebody could use it in Ohio or, you know, wherever it makes sense, but to work together to make it stronger. I'm thinking like we're going to have to invite you back for another. I mean, we've got another agenda to people are interested in looking more closely, as am I, and
Yeah,
understanding better. And then I wonder as a group if there are topics we might be interested in coming back and talking about. And one of them might be taking a closer look at the Fidelity tool and thinking about how we could work together to validate it, and looking more closely at the practice profiles and thinking about where it makes, you know, just discuss. There's a million discussions that could come from some of what you've shared.
Sarah, I love that idea. And that's probably the way that we're going to go. And if there's not any questions, that's a good segue into my next ask.
Okay. So go ahead. And I did, and Beth is on board. And so I said, like, I would like so you have a few more minutes. Go ahead with your ask.
I'm almost done.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
So I don't know if some of you remember that we have DU interns, future school psychologists that have to do program evaluations. And now I've been working with them for 3 years. Jennifer Coffey works with the set, Karen Ward works with the set, and I have 3 groups. And so our 3 groups are looking at MTSS and SEL, MTSS and equity frameworks. And then we're having them pull some LRE and disproportionality reflective of Colorado to look where we're at. So like we did 3 years ago, where we talked to many of you and interviewed you and looked at your site for your online platforms, they wrote a report. We sent it to all of you, could send it again. It's Beth has seen it. And it just gave an overview of 5 or 6 states. I think New Jersey was one of them, that what their platform they were using. The students did a great job and they did the work for us as a community of practice. So this time we're going to interview states that are up for it, that have MTSS and SEL linked together on their websites, and MTSS and equity frameworks. And when Beth talks, Beth's going to talk about the larger national community of practice that is absolutely fabulous and what they're working on. So we're going to reach out across the nation beyond the SPDIG states. Anyway, whoever is willing, the students will look at websites. They'll create a report in both these areas. And I promise to share that out with all of you. I think it'll be very interesting to see what we come up with, and they always do a great job. What they're going to be doing this April 26th through like May 26th, because their final project is May 31st. So it's a quick turnaround, but I just want to put a plug if you're interested. I know Beth is going to work with me to reach out to the other national states that are there, but and then that was it, except putting a plug in for what I thought was a small project with Beth Rice, and she took it and ran with it and is amazing and doing a fabulous job. And I can't wait for you all to hear from her. So
that's a good introduction. That's a great introduction. Just before we move on, how would people let you know if they're interested? Just email you or email me and I can pass the names along.
What I did 3 years ago is I just emailed all the MTSS, the states that had MTSS FDIGs. So I'll send you out just an email to see if you're interested. And if you don't have a time for the interview, they'll probably just look at your website. But if you have any problems with that, I would want you to let me know. Just because they're going to
so we can all expect to get a follow-up email from you with some information about the opportunity and how to participate, what the timelines are, things like that. That would be fabulous.
Right. And John, if you don't mind, if you have a suggestion of who I could reach out to, because I know it's grown.
Yeah, certainly. You can just email signetwork@uoregon.edu. Kelsey Live is the one that monitors that email directly on a day-to-day basis, but I do check in periodically as well. And we can get you a list of states or whomever. We'd love to partner with you and support you on getting those out.
Thank you dearly.
Awesome.
Sounds great. And we'll look forward to circling back and hear from those who participate and maybe in the fall when we get things done. I love that you mentioned the students. We have interns in the summer, OSEP interns. I know some other SPDIG projects hire a stipend, if I think have small stipends or whatever, can use interns in the summer to do some special projects. So I really encourage you to think about who's available, the school psychology students, maybe special ed students, others. They're looking for great experiences, doing research and evaluation, bringing their knowledge of social emotional learning or MTSS into practice. So it's a win-win for you and for them. It helps build their resume and vita and helps you get some stuff done, some special projects that you might not have time to do otherwise. So absolutely love it. Look for your neighboring universities. I encourage you to look for programs that have OSEP funded personnel preparation or professional development projects. We call them PDP 325. So, you know, they have funds available to offer students the opportunity to do that. And I'm happy to help you find who in your state might have that funding. And another way to support OSEP funded projects, it's 84325, the Personnel Development Program grants, or we call them 325K, 325D. So we talk in that lingo that nobody understands, but looking to support OSEP scholars to get some great experiences. So perfect. Thank you, Kristen. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot, as I know others did. There's a few questions for you in the chat that I wasn't able to answer about evaluation. And I really love the idea of working across projects. I just have one more comment I can't resist saying is I really, really appreciate and value how you've broken out the resources to recognize what the school building, the teachers and principals need at the service level, what the maybe district people need in terms of managing projects, assigning personnel, doing the budgets, finding the resources, setting the priorities. And then there's the policy people, maybe at the school board or the state department level. So thinking about the needs of each of those groups, and they do need different things. They all need to know something about what you're doing and some of the same understanding, but then they need to react and use those tools in different ways. So that is a really nice example of meeting those organizational needs across the different domains of service, management, and policy. So just wanted to share that as well. All right, thanks. Well, I'll let you introduce Beth since you know her even better than I do and have made some connections. So Beth, if you're ready to go, I'm going to ask Kristen to do the introductions.
Well, I already told you, she's wonderful.
I heard that part.
She
Yeah.
is very personable and has gotten these states on board with coming together. So Beth, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So welcome, Beth. Happy to make the connection and learn more both about the Serve Center and also the work you're doing to bring together a national community of practice supporting MTSS.
Okay, well, it's wonderful to be with you all. And I'm new to Serve. I started here in October. I'm going to tell a little bit about my story just in terms of how we got here, but also when we started, Sarah, you asked about the funding of Serve. So I'm dropping a link to their different projects in the chat window. Because I want to make sure and answer that question. And I think that's got some of the information. So here you can see a little bit about the Serve Center. We are based out of UNC Greensboro here in North Carolina, and I live in Concord, North Carolina, which is near Charlotte. And so we conduct research and evaluation. We develop programs, products, publications. If you go to that link that's in the chat window, you'll see a variety of things that have been published from Serve. We provide technical assistance to states Also, we administer the Region 6 Comprehensive Center. So you're probably very familiar with the regional comp centers. So, but I want to be clear that this is not a project connected with the Region 6 Comprehensive Center. This is connected to the broader SERV Center. You can see the additional centers that we support both nationally and based in North Carolina, as well as some of those research and evaluation topics, which are also in the chat window. But it's kind of amazing that I am having this moment with you all, and it is because of Kristen Brown using her voice and making these connections that I'm here. So we are very early in this work, but I'll tell you how that we started. So I also do have a little link there to like, who in the world is this Beth Rice person? And you certainly don't have to go check it out, but it'll give you a little bit more background about different work and that kind of stuff that I've been involved in and what really my heart and passion is. I will also tell you that as Kristen was talking the whole time, I'm sitting here like, I feel so at home here because like, Kristen, how you talk about everything, it's all this real familiar language. And certainly I came from North Carolina and was on the state MTSS team. I worked my way up from being I started off as a special education teacher in a middle school in a resource room setting, eyes wide open then to all the systemic inequities that we had. I started off leaving the middle school in tears because I had no idea that we had so many students that had been left behind. And these were, in fact, our students in special education at that point. From there, I went and became a school psychologist. I studied undergrad at UNC Chapel Hill, grad school at Appalachian State. Very involved in advocacy in the state organization, all those things. But in North Carolina, our school psych program, we were very much steeped in MTSS and really thinking about that in terms of systems change, very connected with all the school mental health work, PBIS, all of those things were a part of my upbringing. And then in 2019, when I was also, I wanted to say, before I joined the state team with MTSS, I first came to Cabarrus County, which is where I live, as a district coordinator back in 2011. Sarah brought up Karen Ward. So Karen had a community of practice that she had made for district coordinators. This was whenever she was in Chapel Hill, Carborough schools, and brought us into a community of practice. And being a new person in a district leading this work, having a safe space to be able to talk about things. Kevin, I was listening to the questions that you posed right at the beginning as we were starting to look at some of those resources and how that you roll this stuff out. No matter if you've been in this for forever or you're new to this, we're like always learning and we're always learning together. And I think any question is a good question because somebody else is thinking the exact same thing. But Karen was one of the people that was instrumental to me personally with having one of those first community of practice around this work with MTSS. And I do think any of the questions you've wrestled with as a state leader with this work, other people have wrestled with the same thing. And I think even now, thinking about just how hard leadership is right now as things are so politically charged and all those things, it's really important that we're connected and are able to have conversations and be able to talk openly about the things we need to navigate and work through because this work cannot stop. It is absolutely critical for students. It is absolutely critical for educators. So what happened to us in North Carolina, we had started off some of our work with doing practice profiles. Then we really got into implementation fidelity assessments, and we were really kind of took some of the work from Florida, the PSRTI project, and it was SAM at the time, and then it transitioned to FAM. So we adapted that. We did all the validation study stuff also. So Kristen, you need to, Amy Miller is one of the people on the MTSS team that's a part of the COP, and she can talk through all of those things. But one of the things we noticed when we looked at that is there kept being social emotional. And we started thinking as a state, you know, we don't have a lot of resources around this. We've got a lot of academic, a lot of behavior, but we've not done our due diligence yet with social emotional. So we found out about the Collaborating States Initiative through CASEL. This was back when that was also a safe space and a safe thing to talk about. But I got to join in and be a part of that experience, and it was absolutely incredible. Incredible because, one, they did a beautiful job of really creating a safe space to talk and to wrestle with whatever that we were dealing with, but also incredible in the sense of we could share the resources, and there was so much commonality in the needs. And I could take that resource, much like what Kristen just did with y'all, and like bring it back to my team in the state and to us talk about it, and then think about, okay, well, if we wanted to do something like this, what would it look like? And y'all know this, as leaders, all we need are roadmaps. You got all the skills, you have all the moves, you know how to facilitate and coach people through hard conversations, but being able to have that roadmap is so critical. So that was something we were able to share. It was really sharing kind of roadmaps of how that we had done different work. So then I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, you know, this is really important, but why in the world don't we have this for multi-tiered system of support? So I just started talking to people that had created the CSI. I reached out to people that I really trusted in terms of MTSS, had conversations with people in other states to see, like, you know, is this something that you think would be helpful? Is this something that's a need? And we found some other interested states. And again, we are super, super early in the work. So what who that this is for really is for both state and I would say national MTSS implementers. I'm going to show you who's engaging in just a second, so you'll be able to kind of look at the different states and the different roles. What we have decided that we want to focus on is initially 4 objectives. So the first one is around a one-pager. The one-pager is a powerful thing. It helps to really ground the conversation and create that common language. So we wanted to do that. We'll be leveraging some national resources as well as each of the participating states' resources. We also wanted to look at some different policy examples, both at the think about federal, state, district, and school. We have different parts and pieces of those. One of the things that we know is that policy protects. And I can tell you from experience in North Carolina, a lot of times when superintendents are trying to figure out what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, the stuff that's not in policy that doesn't have to be done, it gets cut. Well, the problem is sometimes that is your organizing framework. And that's what we would say that MTSS is. So there definitely are some benefits to it being connected with policy. We also have talked about this need for constant reflection, right? And so thinking about developing some different reflection tools. And again, people already have some of this that we're talking about, but we're spanning wide in terms of state, district, and school. Kristen, you also talked about regional. That might be something we want to bring back up, because I do think that regional work is so important. And then really the foundation that really is supports all of this is really sharing those resources. So we had our first meeting in January. We had our second meeting in March, and we're in the process right now of scheduling a third meeting in May. And then this is kind of the roadmap that we're using to build this. So we started off working on our purposes and objectives. We almost have that finalized. The next thing is we're working on the scope, sequence, logistics, and resources. We just started drafting that. And then the next part is we'll be thinking about recruiting additional community of practice members. So I'm kind of here kind of early, but just happy to share. We're also always will be inclusive. You're welcome to join us if you're interested, but we haven't reached out yet to additional states. So you've not missed any communication or anything, but OSEP is just on it, and here I am. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. But then we'll be reflecting on like the agendas, of course, always committed to continuous improvement, and then thinking about how that will communicate key learnings. So these are the people that have participated. I bolded Kristen on here and I bolded myself on here. It's in alphabetical order by last name, but that kind of gives you a sense of who are some of the people that are in this space. And then the other thing I would say right now, what it looks like is we kind of spend a moment to get, it's 90 minutes every other month, which was actually, I guess I had that 2 slides ago. Is you can see the meeting frequency there at the bottom, but 90 minutes, all virtual. And so we spend some time at the beginning, getting everyone connected, knowing more about who is in the room or our virtual space. Then we really spend some time in breakout rooms doing some individual work across those different buckets around those initial objectives. We share that work out. And then we really work on whatever those next steps. So, and I don't know, Kristen, is there anything you would say that would maybe be more important that they hear in terms of what we're doing with this?
Well, I would just say that if you look at who's here, and Beth, you said it's interesting where states find themselves. So even that equity framework that I'm talking about, Jose from Florida sat in a panel for NASP with 5 states talking about equity, and he was limited in what he could say. So it's where we're at, and it's what we're doing. And I think that people are pretty honest of what they can do and what they can't. So and you can see by all the different states that are here, just having an idea of what's going on.
So I don't know if other people have questions. If it's something that you're interested in, I will drop my email in the chat window, and you're welcome to just send me an email and I'll get you looped in with the communication. Does anybody have any questions?
So it's kind of word of mouth is how people came together. You just sort of started it, and
Yeah, yes,
that's
yes.
great. Fabulous. Well, I'm signing everyone up for at least informational emails, right? I know there's others who aren't here today. It's sort of interesting. I see when I look at the list, I see people on the list that I work with in a slightly different project. And so I wonder, like, if they're talking with each other. So I see Jackie's, I'm calling out Jackie and Amanda or Annette, who are here from Montana. So I've met Annette in one circle and I met Jackie in a different circle. And now today they're both here in this circle. And I sort of think of this world like that too. Like there are, people I know here today from SPDIG world, but then I know them from some other aspect of funding that we do. So I love that you're bringing people together across projects, across roles. You said you were a school psychologist by training, but there's special ed people by training, there's administrators by training, and seeing those different people come together and building it up.
Well, Sarah, it's interesting because I spent 12 years in the California Department of Ed. And so one of our first, and I've been here, Colorado Department of Ed, so 2 CDEs. I'm in my second CDE for 3 years. But when we first met, I was partnered with Julie, who I worked with in California, and their MTSS, they get a lot of money, but they just manage it. They manage the money part of it. So it is interesting, Beth, and Sarah, that everybody has different roles here.
Yes.
And how they're engaging. And we know as SPDIG directors, we're hands-on. But
right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I asked Beth when I met her before before everyone joined, where the funding came from. And I think that's an interesting path to trace back. It's like, oh, I got this, I'm here today because I have funding on the SPDIG grant, which came from OSEP. But there's other people in the State Department who are working on MTS because they have funding from Title I. Or there's people that have funding from HHS. And, we're referencing the same research base. We're talking about the same people. We're inviting the same speakers, but we're each talking in our own alley and recognizing that, at the end of the alley, we come together for the block party, right? We all need to come together. So I'm sometimes invited to meetings because I'm a school psychologist and I come from the mental health path. Or sometimes I'm invited to meetings because I'm a school psychologist and I'm coming from the special ed path. And sometimes when I get there, it's some of the same people, but not all of the same people. So I just encourage us to like take advantage of this opportunity. I thank you both for bringing it to us. And I also invite you to go back to your office and think like, who else is talking about MTSS and what alley are they in? But they're talking about it in the same way. So maybe it's because it's academics and you're talking about it because it's social emotional and they're in the behavioral health lane. But we all, at some point we're building a strong foundation that kids need. And fortunately, we're using the same terms and the same understanding of what those terms mean. And I think that just makes it stronger because we're moving it forward together.
Sarah, I think what you just said too is some real, is powerful because so when North Carolina first started in the work, so that's the team I came from in October, we had a state MTSS team that was different division directors across the agency who were looking at what are the different like policy pieces that we need to think through because MTSS impacts a lot of different policies. It should be connected with a lot of different funding streams. And I think, to make a kind of analogy right now, when so we started off with a school level tool, now we have a district level tool. Well, what's the big thing that happens when you bring the district team together? The district MTSS coordinator knows all this stuff that everybody else doesn't realize yet. And so having a team that is routinely meeting and planning and using common language, which is what you just said, and making those explicit connections to the work, I think while it's different at the state level, that same analogy is what is going to get us a lot of momentum and movement and streamlining things. And there's actually some research to support that. The CHOI, I think it's CHOI, CHOI, that talked about what are some of those common challenges at the state level and really connected it with implementation. And I do think while there's differences as we go state to state, there's also some common challenges that we deal with, and common language is a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to that earlier comment about, so it's like they're dealing with it at the state level at a policy perspective. Then there's the management people that are trying to allocate the resources and figure out the budget and get the training and hire the people. And then there's the service level where we have to understand, like, what does that mean in the classroom? What does that mean for kids? And, the through line needs to be the same, but then we have different ways of interacting with it and different hats that we need to wear to consider it. But I think I think you're right. And we need to bring people together at those different levels and remember that piece. I did put in the chat the Center for MTSS, which is a national center. It's run out of AIR, and I don't know what the funding is, but I'd like to find out. I know that some of the OSEP grantees who have personnel preparation grants are connected to it. So they're doing it from a university level and teaching their students about it, but I'm not sure what connections any of you all might have to that center. But I know when you look at the center staff, you're going to see the same kind of people that run the National Center on Intensive Intervention, and they work with the Rhode Island SPDIG, and they work with so we sometimes don't know that we're all invited to the same thing. We're doing different things in different parts of our day. Fabulous, Beth. Thank you so much. So we have, do we have your email in the chat or a way to follow up with you? Perfect. Okay. We'll make it a point to do that. Anybody have questions for Beth or for Kristen? Kristen, I'm assuming you've signed up. Did I see your name on that list?
Yes.
Yes, good. We only have a minute or two left. Are there any announcements, other events, information you want to share? I would appreciate, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And I would like to hear from you in the chat, or you can follow up by email or in other conversations about the next part of this conversation, like where we leave off today. What would you like to talk about next? Are there follow-up points? Like, would you like Kristen to come back and talk about what a practice profile is, or give us updates on the research? Are there questions that are unanswered as you're leaving? And likewise, are there pieces you think you're going to take away and can put to use right away? And I always think of the Project Directors Conference, which is coming up this summer. And if there might be an opportunity for us to come together and have some in-person conversations about some of the same things. I love that, Annette. Thank you. I'm going to say thank you to you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. So much fabulous information shared, great resources and connections, and lots of energy. I look forward to following up and acting on it. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all that you brought to the conversation.